Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Aussie Starcraft. We're casting a few games from the Acer Team Story Cup. This time it will be from the Millennium vs. Complexity series, which took place about 2 weeks ago now. So in the bottom left hand corner is our blue Terran. It is Millennium's MillForGG. In the top right hand corner is our red Terran. It's Complexity's TheSC. So it will be a TvT matchup, and just to give you a bit of background on these two players, MillForGG is an old Brood War player. Had a lot of success back in Brood Wars, and then transitioned over to Starcraft 2 and Heart of the Swarm. Funnily enough, TSC also playing from back in the Brood War days. The two of these guys were actually on the same team some time ago. I believe it was Old Generations. So these two very familiar with each other and each other's play styles from way back in the day. So it'll be interesting seeing them come up against each other and see how they fare in this matchup. They have met a few times at tournaments during the year. At I believe it was DreamHack Valencia and another tournament that slipped my mind momentarily. So always a good game. MillForGG's TvT is actually exceptionally strong. So it'll be interesting to see if TSC can bring something to the table and give his old teammate something to remember him by. So the map, of course, Derelict Watcher, great map for a TvT matchup. Lots of interesting factors come into play, things like the large drop angle, so both players naturally being Terran, drops will definitely be a feature of the game, or you would expect it to be anyway. Very large base to try and defend, also able to exploit things like the low ground, high ground things with siege tanks and that sort of thing. So really interested to see what sort of plays both these players go for. TSC taking his gas now after throwing down his command center on the low ground, so going for a fairly quick expansion. MillForGG, on the other hand, instead electing to pop out a few marines and start mining gas. So we see the first 50 gas harvested for MillForGG. It'll be interesting to see, does he drop a reactor with this? Does he save up for a factory? It has a lot of options. It's always interesting to see, it is actually going to be the reactor, what openings Terran players take in matches against each other. There's obviously lots of different styles of openers. Frequently we'll see Terran players grab a Reaper for the great scouting. Other times we'll see them try to rush some Banshees out against each other. All sorts of different openings. Of course, in a lot of matchups, Terran's favouring the sort of Widowmine, Marine, Marauder, Medevac sort of strategy, but with the recent nerfs that occurred to the Widowmine's radius, we have seen the amount of Widowmines trim dramatically, but interestingly enough, in spite of the fact the siege tank's been buffed, we haven't seen a whole lot of the siege tank in recent games and tournaments. So be interesting to see if that changes, particularly in TvT. TvT tends to require siege tanks. Both our players grabbing their factories now. Will we see a tech lab go down? I imagine we won't be seeing any sort of Hellion play like we'd expect in a ZVT, but can imagine that we will see some siege tank production. Of course, siege tanks always been incredibly good. MillForGG actually might make a liar out of me, moving his factory over to the reactor, and he's actually going to be popping out some Hellbats. So it's an interesting choice for MillForGG. TSC looks like he'll be doing likewise. So TSC's expansion already up and mining. MillForGG's almost upgraded to an orbital now, and it looks like TSC's going to counter this with a couple of Widow Mines. So very different and interesting opening to this game. So big scan going down by the TSC. Is going to spot this factory working away. Isn't going to be aware of whether it's Hellions or Widow Mines, though he may well have caught this Hellion on the edge of the scan. So MillForGG also electing to put out a Viking just to ensure he's got protection against any early Banshee play. He at this point in time hasn't been able to scout TSC's base, so is unaware of whether he's going to be up against that early Banshee, and if you are, it's very safe. If you pop up a single Viking, you provide quite a lot of defense against that, rather than trying to go the engineering bay route and throw down as many sort of missile turrets as it takes to entirely defend your mineral line. So TSC actually moving out with a little bit of a drop here, 2 Hellions and 2 Widow Mines, but MillForGG actually getting quite a few Hellions on the way at the moment. MillForGG actually moving out with his barracks as a scouting unit, which means we may actually see quite a lot of mech out of MillForGG, or some sort of mech transition. So 6 Hellions already on the field, and a few Widow Mines coming up behind this, so be interesting to see if these are defensive or offensive Widow Mines. Looks like MillForGG is just going to try and contain the TSC at this point in time. TSC likewise going for a mech style, so we may actually be seeing some of the metagame change based on the recent siege tank and Widow Mine changes. So armory coming up now for the TSC. This could be quite an interesting. Oh, this Widow Mine grabbing a kill down here. Will MillForGG scan to clean this up? I think we'll see a scan. Oh no, Raven already on the field, so going to be able to pick off that Widow Mine. So Medevac not able to do. Let's see how much damage that did do. And it's 430 resources lost for TSC, so that drop definitely didn't do the damage that TSC was hoping for. But still very early game here yet. So TSC electing to throw down his 3rd command center. And I'm pretty excited to see a mech game, to be honest. It's been a while. There's been a few staunch mech supporters throughout Heart of the Swarm, but it's always sort of suffered slightly compared to the Marine Marauder Widow Mine sort of strategies, and there's a number of reasons for that have been discussed and debated at length, some of which are maneuverability. The mech army is where the bioforce is flexible and fast and able to react very quickly. The mech army in the late game, things like Thors, siege tanks and Hellbats, very slow and immobile. It does hit like an absolute sledgehammer, but unfortunately it is a very slow moving sledgehammer, so frequently you see the bio matchup in a TvT. So getting mech versus mech is going to be quite a fun and interesting little deviation of the regular. We have TSC throwing down a lot more factories, so going up to 5 factories over here. It's got 2 reactors or 2 tech labs and 1 reactor so far, and he's got his +1 weapons on the way now. So of course in the recent buff we had the weapons and armor be combined. Previously in Heart of the Swarm it was just the upgrade, just the armor upgrade that affected land and air units. Now both of these upgrades will upgrade both ground and sky Terran at the same time, so definitely a little buff for mech, and it looks like it's having the desired effect in TvT. Starting to see these players favour that meching style. So we have MillForGG's tech labs and add-ons mostly finished up. Going to be going up to 4 tech labs, and 2 reactors. So able to produce 4 Thors or siege tanks at a time, and 4 Hellbats at a time. So Hellbats, of course, are quite an important component in the meching Terran. They absorb quite a lot of damage, can be useful in the Tasia vs Innovation series. We saw a lot of Hellbats being used to be dropped on the opposing army. Oh, those siege tanks gonna get off one shot and put a little bit of damage on these Hellions. So TSC taking up position to defend these bases, and actually TSC consistently being annoying at these expansions with these drops. So a few Hellbats are actually Hellions with Blue Flame are going to get here into the mineral line. These could rack up quite a few kills. Going to be able to light it up. The medevac here though is going to go down to the missile turret. One more volley on the ramp. Oh, a little bit of a misclick there. Stops the Hellions from being as effective as they perhaps could have been, but did manage to get 16 workers killed. We have the Ravens actually dropping a few point defense drones for harass to get a few kills of his own. So nice little counter there from MillForGG. It is 12 to 16 workers killed. So both these players managing some effective harass despite the immobility of their main meching forces. TSC, throwing down another pair of factories here. Production's all important for well, Terran in general, but particularly a meching Terran. People like Protoss and Zerg can morph or warp in just huge swarms of units. Terran's production obviously a lot slower. Improved. Oh, another nice little tweak here from 4GG, dropping a few Hellbats. They are 4 and 3 kills each, so 7 kills is definitely not too shabby. And they're actually going to pick off that defensive siege tank, so that's quite a nice little pickup. These Hellions, though, are in the third base of 4GG, and this is where the immobility of Terran really, of the meching Terran really sort of struggles, but it is able to do neat little tricks like what 4GG's got here. He's got some of his tanks on the low ground, now some on the high ground, able to almost completely shut down mining here. These tanks are going to siege out this orbital command quite quickly. This needs to lift if he wants to save it. It does manage to get it taken off. TSC able to do some damage with some Seeker missiles, but unfortunately these units are going to remain in place. The Hellions not wanting to take too much damage here, but they are going to blitz in now. They should be able to clean this up fairly quickly. I'm surprised to not see TSC charging forward into the range. If you're against siege tanks, you really want to try and get in under their what's inside their minimum range. In the siege position, they do have a minimum range. Looks like a great angle for 4GG. Going to sweep in here from the side, but this big cluster of siege tanks from TSC is going to clean up so much of 4GG's forces. TSC able to win the Sky War as well, and big supply swing is 120 to 86, and TSC is now going to move out here, continuing to produce. We have 3 siege tanks and 4 Hellions at a time out of TSC, and fairly similar out of 4GG, so 2 siege tanks and 4 Hellions. 4GG, instead of falling back into a defensive position, is trying to swing in and cut off some of these siege tanks before they can establish themselves. And the unenviable position that 4GG is in, the reason this is proving so difficult for him, is TSC has the complete sky advantage, and for siege tanks that means line of sight. So TSC able to carry the day against 4GG, which I think is an excellent achievement in and of itself. As we said before, 4GG has some of the best TvT in the game at the moment, so TSC proving that he's got the skills to carry team complexity, able to knock out 4GG and move into the next round. So as we've said in the past, Acer Team Story Cup is a tournament in which the winner stays in and is then challenged by a new challenger from the opposing team. It's a best of 9 series. First team to win 5 games takes the day. So TSC starting out a strong win for team complexity, and we'll see who the challenger is in game number 2 and whether they've got the moves to take it to TSC. So hope you guys enjoyed the cast. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click that button up above the video. Love to see you in the channel in future casts. So hope you guys are enjoying it. We'll be following up with some more casts right after this. Thanks guys, have a great day.